Hey, it's me, Miss V, the storyteller. I am so thrilled today. I have a person on that's going to be talking to us today. Her name is Michelle Dickinson, like Angie Dickinson. Y'all know her. People of a certain age. Now, my mom, she introduced me to Angie Dickinson because she absolutely loved her. If you don't know who she is, go look her up. But this time, this is Michelle Dickinson. I believe it might be her cousin. But anyway, so we're going to be talking to her today. And when I met her and I talked to her, I said she has to come on the show because there is something that we are going to talk about today that you all are probably experiencing it. So before we get to all the meat and all the good stuff, please, Michelle, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me and having me here on your show.
Yes.
It's an honor. A little bit about me. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. So I live in New Jersey. I have three puppies that I live with. They're my fur family. Um, and what I get to do every single day is I get to coach people in resilience and work in the corporate space to elevate compassion and help people have a better relationship to emotional well-being,
Mm-hmm.
and boost resiliency because a lot of people are struggling right now coming out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The burnout numbers are pretty high. So I get to do
Yes.
that every day. I love the work that I do. I have so many wonderful clients that I get to work with. It truly is my passion to be doing this work. But before I was doing this work, I worked 19 years in the pharmaceutical industry
Oh.
and left, decided I wanted to be a force for change, wanted to be part of the solution when it came to mental health. And along the way, I was fortunate enough to be asked to give a TED talk, and then I went on to write my memoir. And then when I was in my Fortune 500 company, I helped build a mental health employee resource group to shift the culture to become more stigma free and compassionate. So that was a great experience, and it really did have me get deeply connected to wanting to do more, which is why I ultimately, a few years ago, became an entrepreneur and started my own company.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love women empowerment, but one of the things that I love about us as women entrepreneurs that when you have a heart to go out and help people, when you see a niche, when you see something that people are struggling with and you go out and you go out to help them, I just think it's amazing because there are a lot of people out here doing stuff for themselves, but when you move beyond that and go to help other people, you have my total respect. So, today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about compassion in the workplace. And listen, I have had some jobs where I did not have compassion at all for my boss and vice versa.
Yeah.
And there's a story that I share on my podcast, Miss V, the Storyteller podcast. And the story is I quit and walked off that job. And that is a story that we're going to kind of talk about. And we're going to go basically on that job. I was working in I actually helped to build this new store. It was an empty store. They hired us. We came in. We basically put the store together. Once the store was together, it was time for us to do soft openings and get out all the kinks and everything. And so our boss was under some stress. He was on a different level. However, him and I, we were good. Everybody, they would come to me because of our rapport. Him and I, we got along really great. So the employees start coming to me, when they had issues, and it was like, why don't you go and tell, so and so about, and that's what I would do. And then, him and we would talk about it. I bring it back to the employees and all that stuff. And we had a great relationship until the pressure got on him. When the pressure came on him, he turned into a different person.
Mhm.
And this man literally had the entire store on edge. Some of the problems were technical issues that shouldn't have been pushed on us because it wasn't our fault. One of the main issues was a glitch. Long story short, they wanted us to ask all the customers for their zip code. And some of the customers didn't want to give it, and some lied about their zip codes and all that stuff. So basically, when he looked at the numbers, he was like, okay, you all are not asking. Like, are you
Mhm.
out here on the floor? Are you listening? Are you looking? You know, and basically, he had it in his head that it was our fault. It wasn't our fault. There was a glitch. They came up with this zip code that you could just put in for anybody who didn't want it. And so we start using it. So he said that that was our out. And so we weren't asking, we were just putting the zip code in. Anyway, fast forward to the day that corporate came down on him and then he came down on us. I come to work, I walk in, one of my coworkers are walking out, she's crying. He has just let her go. I go in, and the next thing he was like, he wanted to see me. So I go in and he tells me that I'm not asking for zip codes. It's so silly. Anyway, I said, well, how would you know that? We had a little conversation. It escalated to the point where he stuck his finger in my face and told me that I wasn't going to do something. And I was young. I got upset. I got in my flesh, and I was walking out and the door slammed. And when it wasn't my fault, the door didn't have the little piece on the door didn't work, but he took it out on me and said that I slammed the door. I turned back around, I went back in, and that's when he got up and put his finger in my face and he started at me. I told him that he could take the shirt because he was telling me that I need to turn my shirt in and my uniform in. And I told him as I was proceeding to take it off that he could take that shirt and shove it up his. Yeah, we both were on 10. And the thing that got me when I walked out, the entire break room and everybody was applauding me because I was fighting for them in there. And that's why I escalated because I was defending them.
Mhm.
And they clapped and they applaud me and everything. A couple of days later, I came back in to return my stuff, and everybody was coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you know, you did such a great job. Thank you so much. I'm sorry you lost your job, blah, blah, blah." And come to find out that they had demoted him. He got dropped down and they felt like he needed to be on the floor to learn about his employees. So
Mhm.
that's kind of sort of how the story went. So if you want to go and listen to the whole story, all the details, you know, just go over to my podcast, Miss Vita Storyteller, and just type in "I quit and walked off that job." But do you have a story that's kind of like similar to that? You know, did something happen to you to make you say, okay, you know what? I want to start helping people
Yeah.
to have compassion on the job
Yeah.
and the bosses.
Yeah, I think, for me, I had a moment that got me really connected to the need to teach people how to be compassionate. I mean, you think that you learn this as little people, right? Kindergarten, they teach you to
Mhm.
be nice to one another. I think for me, my aha moment was when I was diagnosed with depression. So imagine this: I give a TED talk, I write a memoir, I release it. I'm using the book to cause more conversations about mental health in the
Mhm.
workplace. I'm getting a lot of attention and support from people outside of my immediate department, right? And I'm having also a hard time getting up in the morning because I'm
Mm.
going through a divorce.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, no, I can't be depressed. I'm not depressed. Am I depressed? And sure enough, I went to a doctor. He was like, you're dealing with depression. You are going through a major life event, loss of marriage, everything. He's like, these are heavy emotions. It makes sense. So I'm diagnosed with depression and I'm leading a mental health employee resource group.
Wow.
Right? So isn't that the irony? It's like
Yes.
everything is always perfect. So I say to myself, I'm going to go first. I'm going to tell my boss. I'm going to be the person that leads by
Mhm.
example. And I remember telling her, I said, listen, I was diagnosed with depression and some days are really hard. I'm doing the best I can. And there will be times when I have to go and see my doctor. But I want you to know I'm doing everything in my power to get my work done. And she was not very sympathetic. And I didn't think anything of it. I said, all right, she's clearly not connected to her own mental health and doesn't really know how to be compassionate.
Compassionate.
So whatever. I don't even think twice. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. At least she's not being mean until my performance review. And in my performance review, she said to me, you didn't meet expectations. You didn't bring your bubbly, upbeat self to work every day. And I was like,
Wow.
wow. So I'm
Wow.
sitting there, imagine I'm sitting in this conference room for my annual review. I had consistently exceeded expectations for like 5 years, right? It's like the
Yeah.
first time they're telling me. So it's there because there's three bosses in the room. It's me and I reported to two and I was about to report to a new one come the new year. So I had three bosses sitting there and she's telling me, you just weren't bubbly and upbeat. And I said, holy crap. Like I was speechless. I couldn't believe what my ears were hearing. I think in that moment, it lit a fire under me.
Mm,
And I realized, you know, in retrospect, she just didn't have a good relationship to her own mental health.
mm.
And she's leading people. And so I said, how many other people are having an experience like this? How many other people have a boss that just does not know how to be compassionate, how to be empathetic, how to be supportive, how to not evaluate an employee's performance on their ability to be bubbly
Bubbly.
while
Yeah.
while dealing with depression. Like, did I meet those deliverables? Like it's like a whole big can of worms. But so that was, I think, the moment for me when I said I need to be part of the solution, because clearly we have work to do and we have people leaders at the helm that just don't know how to extend compassion to those suffering.
Yeah. I think you are so poignant about this because as we were talking, I know a lot of people have to return back to work.
Yeah.
They've been working at home during the pandemic, and people are just don't want to put up with going in a place where it's not healthy mentally.
Yes.
So they're choosing to either work at home or not go back at all. But also, we got to think about, and I think about also bosses.
Yeah.
They've been working from home.
Yeah.
So everybody has changed. Nobody is going back into the workplace the same. Everybody
Right.
has changed. You've
Right.
been at home and you've been making it happen and you're happy and all that. And now you have to go back in.
Yeah.
So tell us, help us to, for those people who have to go back into the workplace,
Yeah.
even bosses that
Yeah.
have to return into a building, help us out, help us, give us some tidbits or something to help us when we return.
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant question, and one that, we have to be, it's a conversation we must have. So just to kind of set the landscape here, before the pandemic, it was said that 1 in 5 would experience a mental health challenge in their lifetime.
Mhm.
Now, coming out of the pandemic, the magnitude of loss we went through, the quarantine that we went through, they now say 1 in 3 are right now experiencing anxiety or depression.
Well, I can see that.
One in 3, right?
Mhm.
So that's one, that's out of every third person you're interacting with a day, one of them is struggling with something. So I think we need to remind all of our leaders and, even employees, that the prevalence of people struggling is huge right now.
Mhm.
So we have to show up and extend compassion and empathy and support, because you just don't know who that person is that's suffering in silence. So I think that's the first thing: get the impact and get the prevalence of the people around you, because it's happening even if they're not talking about it. I would say for the individual employee, yeah, it's uncomfortable to have to go back into that environment. So, you get to ask yourself, is this a company I want to be a part of, first of all, right?
Mhm.
Like, is it a company that, because listen, I've read the data. A lot of people don't want to go to work because of the bullying, the silent bullying that was going on before the pandemic. And
Yes.
they were able to extract themselves from that political
Mhm.
bullying, and now they got to go right back into it. So there's the resistance, right?
Yeah.
So you got that going on. I say it's a great opportunity to take inventory and say, is this organization aligned with my values? And is this organization, if I continue to work here, going to compromise my own mental health?
Mhm.
Right? So you have to ask that. If you're a people leader, here's my big tidbit for your people leaders. What's your relationship to mental health? Because that is
Mm.
from the lens you will lead your people. I am crystal clear. The woman that was managing me had the worst relationship to her mental health because she couldn't even extend compassion and understanding to me. She was neutral, and then she judged me on my ability to be bubbly. That tells me your relationship to your own mental health is really where there's some work to be done.
Yeah.
So people leaders really need to understand what is your, what is your prior experience with mental health? Do you have any, or is it just through the news that you see, or did you have a loved one that experienced it like I did, or do you avoid, like, it all starts with our lens, just like any kind of biases we bring to the table with our own experiences. It's the same for mental health. So if you're going to lead someone who's struggling, and you don't even have a good relationship with your own mental health, you're going to lead them from that lens, and that might not work.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because for me, luckily I work from home and I love it. I'm an introvert and I love working by myself at home. But when I was out in, working in the office and all that, I was one of those people that everyone came to.
Yeah.
No matter where I went, I was one of those people because I love helping people. And if they had a problem or an issue, I would always come to them. And sometimes in my past, I had issues with my boss because of that. They rather come to me because I was open and compassionate. But for me, it's because of so many things that I had went through my past. It
Mhm.
kind of changed me and made me more compassionate towards
Yeah.
other. But if you find yourself in a situation on a job and your boss has returned and you've had to return and you've made some different changes within yourself, but your boss comes back the same person. And do you ever recommend that an employee address like you went to your boss
Yeah.
and see what happened? I
Yeah.
think a lot of people would be afraid. So
Yeah.
is that something that you would recommend if you are an employee and your boss is different? That's the word I'm going to say, different. Do you go to HR? What do you
Yeah.
recommend for I'm just returning back to work and it's still pure hell?
Yeah, you really have to focus on the individual's behaviors and whether or not that's something you want to address with your HR department.
Mhm.
I happened to do a series with this wonderful woman about workplace bullying. I did a
Mhm.
three-part series in my on my show called Michelle's Conversations That Matter, and you really got to weigh what that could look like in the positive
Okay.
and the negative, right? Ultimately, we only have control over ourselves, right? Like
Okay.
I had no control over how she was going to act at all. All I had control over was me. So taking care of me became my priority. Um, in the end, it was all a blessing because I left the job, the company, the industry altogether. So I always look back and look for the silver lining because that was the silver lining.
Mhm.
Um, but if it's a situation where it's just compromising your mental health to go in and have to be around that individual, you really got to take inventory and say, is this worth it? And is speaking up worth it?
Okay.
I think you have to really saying something to them about any type of behavioral modification is like poking the tiger. Like I could have never had that conversation with her, nor would I want to. It's not my place. Like I don't like fix your heal your stuff so you don't bleed on me. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
if that's in their court. Um, so yeah, you really have to really take inventory and say, is this worth it? Is it worth my mental health to stay? Is it worth it to go to HR? Do I want to engage in that battle? You know?
Yeah, that sounds like what I was just thinking. I was thinking you have to make a decision for yourself to keep your own peace. And
Yes.
if you have no peace on the job, you may have to just leave. And I do remember one particular job, they had an exit interview. And
Mhm.
on this particular job, everyone knew it was one person that was causing all the employees to leave.
Unbelievable.
And they didn't look at the whole picture. But
Yeah.
when I went to the exit interview, because I felt like I'm leaving anyway, so
Mhm.
I can just share my heart. And that's exactly what I did. And
Yeah.
I told them, and I said, if you go back and you look at the employees, you're going to find out that everybody is going to say one person's name out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And maybe you all need to look into her.
Yeah.
And I felt good. For me, I felt good because I got it off my chest. I got it all out.
Mhm.
And I talked to one of the ladies who was still there, who
Mhm.
had resilience because she put up with it. And
Mhm.
she told me they let her go eventually.
Yeah.
And I will hope that it was something that I said and some of the other employees said to make them start thinking.
Yeah.
So
That
do you ever work with people in HR? Do you, work with any people, and do you have like any suggestions? If we decide that we have to stay there, we can't get another job, what can we do? Can you give us suggestions
yeah.
about HR?
Yeah.
Going to
Well,
HR.
listen, it all starts with you.
Okay.
The one thing I will tell you, I have people reach out to me all the time and they're like, Michelle, will you coach me? I'm really struggling. I can't leave my job. My job is my livelihood. And, I'm miserable. And how do I deal with this? And I, pull myself out of bed to go into work every day. So we focus on empowering them
Okay.
because listen, no job should take your joy. No job should compromise your overall health.
Hmm.
So we focus on boosting their resilience as an individual because they are far more than an identity of an employee for a company.
Oh,
They're
that's
far
good.
more than that, right?
Yeah.
So let's fill their bucket. So we talk about strategies they can apply to take care of themselves. And with that comes an energy shift most of the time, right? Where they
Mm.
say, I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe I do want to stay, or maybe I don't want to stay. Maybe I'm feeling so damn good that I know I could go get a better job and I could get paid more. You
Yeah.
know, but like if you're at the effects of your situation and you're allowing it to dictate your level of joy outside of work, that's when you really should like think about, I got to do something different because I'm so much more than just an employee number for this company.
Yeah, that's good. So basically, you're saying that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to
Absolutely.
do some work. So what are some of the things that you do, you tell your clients as far as working on themselves?
Yes, yes. There's a lot of little things. I tell people it doesn't take a lot to fill your bucket and preserve your mental health, but the key and the magic is in the prevention and is the consistency of doing it every day. So you can't just do it one day and then it's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym one day and like, oh, I'm healthy. You have to keep doing it. So one of the things that I tell people to do is to adopt a gratitude practice. Now, I'm not
Mm.
saying just be grateful Thanksgiving or on Sunday when you go to church. I mean, every single morning, I want you to start thinking about what are three things that you're grateful for. Because what often happens is we're so focused on the things we worry about that we can't even see all the love and the abundance that's right in front of our
Hmm.
face.
Yeah,
So if you start to retrain your mind to look for all of the love and the blessings that you have in your life, you start to see the big picture and go, "Oh, yeah, that's a pain in the butt over there, but like I have this going on. I have my health. I'm going on that trip. I have love in my life. My children are happy." Like you get present to that and you fill yourself up with that. That's a different disposition to walk into your day.
that's good. That's really good. I've learned how to find joy, find some when I look at the end of my day, I try to find joy in that day, something that made me happy, something that that I could focus on. And that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great tool, I should say,
Yeah.
that each day, just try to focus on something. And something else you said is so I've learned this is that the bad and the negative seem so loud and we
Yeah.
help it to become loud
Yeah.
because we feed into it.
We
But if
do.
we just not feed into it,
Yes.
just go the opposite direction and start thinking about, oh, you know what? I'm a great employee. Like you said, the boss, you got your own issues. I'm gonna work on me. And oh my God, that is so good. Is there any other tidbit that you would give us? Because I
Yeah.
like this one. Is there another?
Well, like think about it. Our whatever we are giving our attention to will grow. Like you said, energy goes where our attention flows. So if you're focusing all your energy on the upset that's happening at work, you are not able to be present to the good that is going on in your life. So and you know, it's nice to say to do that, but I want to tell you the why behind it. And this is key. I want people to get this. The mind is wired to protect you, not to make you happy.
Okay. Oh,
The
that's
mind,
good.
the mind is doing its job when it's focusing on the irritant, when it's focusing on what's wrong, it's doing its job to protect you. So it's not all bad. The problem is it's not wired to make you happy. So you have to do things like integrate a gratitude practice into your
Mhm.
life so that you can start to see the good, because the mind wants to look for what's wrong, broken, missing, you know, and upsetting. So just remember, through a gratitude practice every morning, you're going to start to retrain your mind that we look for good. We look for the glass to be half full. So that's a really important and a meaningful aspect behind a gratitude practice, because if you don't do it consistently and you don't do it often, it's very likely that your mind will digress and go back into the, you know, we look for bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like you just have to change your way of thinking. And
Yes.
sometimes that's hard. It's so hard, especially when you go in every day dealing with crap.
Yeah, it's
Well,
true.
you have to go in every day dealing with crap. So I think the journal, a friend of mine, he was telling me on his job, he started journaling.
Yep.
And that was a tool that he used, and I have a story about journaling through your feelings, and it's
Mhm.
kinda like a tool you use to just get the negative stuff out of you,
Get it out. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
just getting it out, and
Yes.
then finding something positive to put inside of us,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, do you have any closing, like, anything that, that you can share with us that we besides the 3 gratitude things, something else that we can do at work for that special person who gets on our last nerve that we have to see every single day. What can we do to keep us from slapping, cussing out, and I'm saying this because I know that there's people out there that have that. Every job I've had that one. It's like that one person that just, oh, is there something that you can just
Yeah.
leave us with to help us with that one person? Some people might have 2 or 3.
You know, people in general are products of their environment. You know, that person that is the most irritating person to you is a product of their past, is a product of their parents, thinks the way
Mm,
they think because of their parents. Like, if you can get that they are a result of their life experiences that cause them to be
mm,
irritating, then maybe you can find it in your heart to have more
mm,
patience and compassion for them. Because
okay.
if you can turn it around and say, wow, you must have really come from a rough place for you to be being in that way, then you're modeling what it looks like to find compassion for even the most difficult people.
Oh, wow, that's good. That's rich for me because oftentimes we think about ourselves
Of
and
course.
how we feel and what that person said and did to us, and we don't flip it around and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
maybe they're going through something just like in your case, you
Yeah.
were going through depression."
Yep.
It wasn't anything personal to anyone. It was just something that was going on with you.
Yeah.
And if someone had to came to you and say, "Hey, Michelle, I noticed that you're not your bubbly self. Is
Yeah.
there anything that I can do showing compassion towards you?"
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm gonna work on that because I do have a person in my life that just, ooh, and I don't have to deal with the person on a daily basis, but I do have to deal with that person. And I'm gonna try to do that. Whew, I am gonna make an attempt to be more compassionate and more understanding and more or less put the shoe on the other foot, if that's how you
Yeah.
would say it.
Come from your heart.
Okay.
We are so groomed to come from our head and logically attack things. things, right? Like you wanted a strategy. How do I deal with that person? And I'm going to tell you, drop back into your heart
Mhm.
and come at them as that is a human being, a child of God
I love that.
who is probably just a little broken like the rest of us.
I love that. I love that. Oh, Michelle, this has been rich. It really has. I knew you were going to bring it. I am so glad we connected. So, we have a few more minutes. Go ahead and tell us where we can contact you. If you have a
Yeah.
website, if you have products, whatever it is, I will make sure
Yeah.
it's in the description. But for those who are driving and listening, tell us where we can find you, and just let us know about Michelle.
Yes, yes, yes. So the best way to connect with me is to go to LinkedIn and connect with me there because I'm always pushing out content on LinkedIn professionally. Of course, my links are in there for my other social media like TikTok and LinkedIn
Okay.
or and Instagram and Facebook and all of that and Twitter. They're all there in that main link on LinkedIn. What I'm really up to is empowering people through my resilience coaching, but also in the workplace, I'm teaching people leaders how to lead compassionately. So I have a people
Okay.
leader program, and then I have a workshop for employees just how to boost their own individual resilience. So if you know someone who's struggling and they could benefit from coaching with me, reach out to me. And if you are connected to someone in the workplace in HR that you think this would be good for your workplace, just reach out to me as well.
That's perfect. And to let everyone know, you do via Zoom and that
Yes,
type of way, because
all
I know you're in a
virtual.
different
Yeah,
state. And I think that's
yeah.
so important for people to know now that Zoom is out and all these different platforms, that you don't have to drive to their state. You can sit in your house and have a conversation with them via Zoom. So yeah, that's great. But thank you so much, Michelle,
You're
for being here.
welcome.
I know that my audience has really learned something today, because I have. I'm
Awesome.
gonna really work on, having more compassion to other people.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
that's good. So thank you again for
You're
being here.
welcome.
All right.